Hey there, welcome back to another video. This time around, it is my review of the 1993 animated film Batman, Mask of the Phantasm. Now, before I get around to sharing more of my thoughts on this film, I want to give a special shout out to a good friend of mine and longtime supporter of the channel, Jonathan, for requesting this review. And if there's another film, TV show, or topic that you would like to see me discuss in the future, feel free to donate to my PayPal. The link will be in the video description down below, and I'll try to get to it as soon as I possibly can. Now, Batman: Mask of the Phantasm is a amazing animated epic. This is not only one of the best animated films I can think of in the comic book genre, but just one of the best comic book films, period. It's a perfect companion piece to what is, in my opinion, still one of the best animated shows of all time in Batman the Animated Series. The film was directed and written by a lot of the people who were involved with the success of Batman TAS, and initially Warner Brothers wasn't even considering this to be a theatrical feature. They were leaning more towards direct to video. This was going to be their first animated film under their Warner Brothers animation studio, and I guess they initially didn't feel that it needed the pressure of a theatrical release. But they changed their mind once Batman the Animated Series was a runaway success, and they thought, hey, we have a really successful property here. Why not adapt this for theaters? Why not give the folks behind this project, who are the same people behind the show, more money to work with and give them a bigger sandbox, so to speak? The gamble didn't pay off financially. The film didn't do well for whatever reason. I think in large part it was due to the marketing and how it was kind of a rushed project, how a lot of people didn't know a lot about it, and as a result, there really wasn't a lot of anticipation for it. Also, the release date, I mean, December 25th, Christmas, not really the best time to be releasing a Batman animated movie. So I feel if they waited a little bit and released it in 94 instead, even in like January of 94, it might have done better. But even despite the fact that it didn't do that well financially in the box office, it did wind up making a profit for the studio, if I remember correctly, on home video, and definitely has turned a lot of people's heads when it comes to the overall quality of the film all these years later. I mean, even when the film came out, it got good reviews from critics. So it's one of those things where eventually the film did get the recognition and appreciation that it deserves. It took a while for it to get released on Blu-ray, though. It didn't get released on Blu-ray until fairly recently by Warner Archive. I had the standalone Blu-ray at one point, but then I sold it once I bought the Batman TAS box set. So I do have the film. I do have it on Blu-ray, and that's what I watched the film on for this review. But Batman the Animated Series is one of those movies that has been praised a lot by a lot of other critics on YouTube and otherwise, and it deserves it. It really does. This is one of those films where when I initially saw it as a kid, I liked it and I had fun with it, but I didn't really understand the nuances of the script. I didn't really get what made it such a standout among not only animated films but comic book movies in terms of its overall quality. I just thought it was an entertaining, fun movie, and I was a big fan of the show at the time, and I still am. So the movie was just something that was a really enjoyable bonus for me. But as an adult, like, I'm able to appreciate so many other aspects of this film. It's directed by Eric Radomski and Bruce Timm, both guys who were integral to the success of Batman the Animated Series, who had directed a bunch of episodes of the series prior to directing this film. And it's a seamless transition for these two. And it really showed what they were capable of when it comes to theatrical, big budget animation. I mean, they were given, it wasn't like 20 million, but it was a $6 million budget, which was considerably more than what they were working with for the animated series. So they had $6 million to work with, and just from the opening sequence, which features this just epic gothic remix of the iconic Batman theme by Shirley Walker, complete with a choir. You have this completely computer generated mock up of Gotham City that the camera soars through to really just start things off with an epic bang. And then from that moment on, there's just so many shots in this film that are gorgeous, that just features some really impressive camera work and framing for animation. The action sequences, when they are there, they really do get the adrenaline flowing. They really are shot in ways that emphasize the movement and the fluidity of the animation in ways that you saw in the show, but not to this extent, because even the fluidity and even the way the camera moves and even the way that things happen within the film are bigger and more grand and more epic in scale, which they should be, because it's a theatrical film. And it was just such a treat to see these two men work within such a larger sandbox for this film. The fact that it was a feature film also enabled them to go bigger with a lot of the sequences and a lot of the stuff that they showed in the movie, but it also enabled them to have more of an edge, more of a bite to the film than what was in the series, because in the series you had to deal with a lot of censors and stuff like that for television, and they got around a lot of it and still managed to have a series that for the most part wasn't something that felt like it was just for kids. It felt like an adult show. And this film, though, really feels like an adult piece of animation. Like, if you just threw in a couple swear words and a little bit more blood or violence, this could have easily been R rated because of the intensity of the subject matter and just a lot of the action sequences. In this, you see characters bleed. You see Batman bleed. You see Batman get bruised and bloody. You see the Joker get punched so hard he loses a tooth. Like, you see a lot of things in this film visually that are just very sharp in terms of the edge in comparison to what they were able to do on television. And it's a real joy to watch as a fan of the series. And yeah, it's a really terrific film in so many different ways, and it definitely starts at the top with the direction, which is definitely some of the finest that is out there when it comes to an animated comic book film. Then you have the screenplay by Alan Burnett, Paul Dini, Martin Pascoe, and Michael Reeves, based on a story by Alan Burnett, because of the fact that it was inspired by another Batman comic. Um, Actually, correction. What that's not really the reason why it was based on a story by Alan Burnett. The story by Alan Burnett and the eventual script was based on a different Batman comic. In particular, they were inspired by Batman Year Two. Instead of the villain being the Reaper like it was in that comic, which I'm a big fan of, by the way. I think it's very underrated. It's Phantasm. They created a completely different villain to replace the Reaper. And of course, it changed a few other things in the story as well to make it their own. I love this script. I think this script is one of the best examples of providing audiences with something new when it comes to a comic book film, when it comes to a movie based on a popular comic book character like Batman, but also providing a bit more depth, a bit more of a backstory without it feeling like a tired origin tale. This had the right idea going for it. A specter from Batman's past is haunting him, and he doesn't necessarily know who the Phantasm is yet, but once he finds that out, it just makes the Phantasm a much more compelling and interesting character. And just the way that the screenwriters handled the backstory of Batman and how he met Andrea and what happened during that time frame when he was struggling, when he was teetering between being Batman or being a vigilante or living a normal life. And I just love the way the writers handled that dynamic. They showcased why Batman, and in turn Bruce Wayne, is such a tragic character. You really felt for Bruce when he falls for Andrea. And, or Andrea, sorry, falls for Andrea. And then he's willing to give up his promise to his parents to be happy and marry this woman, and then for whatever reason she's not able to commit. So you understand why Bruce doesn't commit with any other woman. He doesn't commit to relationships. He doesn't do that. He commits to being Batman because the one time that he tried to commit to somebody that he loved, he had his heart ripped out. And the way that that's written and the way that it's set up in this film is so heartbreaking and so powerful and so poignant that it legitimately got me choked up. And that's not the only thing that the script has going for it, though. I mean, you have that really great emotional heart and core to everything, but you also have a really exciting, interesting new villain in the Phantasm who's going around taking out these mobsters in various different ways. And then through one of the mobsters' association with the Joker, you get the Joker who gets brought into the fray. And this is a much more unhinged, much more violent and maniacal Joker. And it's in my opinion, the best Joker that I've seen on film. And I love Jack Nicholson, and I really like Heath Ledger. And I thought for what the film was, Joaquin Phoenix did a good job as well. But when it comes to the Joker from the comics that I remember, and the Joker that really stood out to me, this Joker, the one played by Mark Hamill and Mask of the Phantasm, that is the definitive Joker for me. And in a large part, it's due to the way they write the Joker, the way they write this character, and how they bring him into the fold, and how they showcase his dynamic with Batman, and in turn with Andrea. I like how they connected things together with Jack Napier and had him be a member of the gang that was responsible for killing Andrea's father and starting her on this path for vengeance. I like that. I think that's a nice bit of depth that's added to everything. And I like the bits where Batman is on the run and he's considered a suspect in these murders of these crime bosses because the Phantasm in a lot of ways is very similar to Batman, with the long cloak and a similar way of appearing and taking care of thugs. But this time around, the Phantasm is actually finishing the job, which is very different compared to what Batman does. Batman doesn't kill these criminals, at least not in Batman animated series. He does whatever he can to prevent that from happening. But Phantasm doesn't care because Phantasm is all about stone cold hard revenge. So I like the fact that he's on the run. That leads to some really rousing and intense sequences where Batman is outnumbered by the police and he has to find a way to escape with his life, and it really does add to the stakes of the story. And then of course you have the climax where everything is exploding and Batman and the Joker are fighting in this tiny mock-up of Gotham City, which ties into the opening credits of the film, which I thought was a nice touch. You have Andrea holding her own against the Joker initially until she leaves enough of an opening for him to come back and then get the upper hand. And I love the way that Andrea is also written too, because she's written as a deep and interesting character with flaws, but with also a lot of things about her that are worthy and admirable when it comes to her ability to hold her own. She's not someone that's a damsel in distress, but she's not just your typical femme fatale character either. There's a lot more there when it comes to how her character is written. And it culminates in a way where, yeah, it's an explosive climax. I love the fight between Batman and the Joker in the miniature Gotham City. Um, but I don't really care for one particular aspect of the climax. There's a moment near the end where, after Batman has essentially taken the Joker out and knocked him on the ground, after the Joker's trying to fly away on his jetpack, Andrea grabs the Joker, uses her smoke that enables her to like disappear or teleport, and takes the Joker away. But you never see what happens to the Joker. You never see him escape. You never see anything like that. And then Andrea's on a cruise ship. So you get to see that Andrea got away, but what happened with the Joker? Like, how did he get out of that? I don't know if they did that in another episode of the series or not. If that is the case, then I stand corrected. But if they never really actually explain that's kind of a miss when it comes to the climax. Like, you have this climactic build up, the explosions and everything, and fight between Batman and the Joker, and Andrea is going to get her revenge on Joker. It almost seemed like she was going to die tragically, which I'm surprised that the film didn't go that route, because I think that would have worked as well. It might have been an even stronger emotional cap to the film, but I'm okay with her living, so you could potentially have her involved in another story down the line or so on. But I just feel that with how the Joker was set up and how the Joker was put into the story and it was done so well, the way that he gets defeated, other than, Batman taking him out, it's a little bit of a letdown. Like, she just grabs him and then does the smoke thing before the whole place explodes. It's like, I think you could have done a little bit more there. But that's really about it when it comes to any of the issues that I have with this script. It's just that little tiny bit. But that's all. Because it's not a story that overstays its welcome, and it's a really effective, well told tale from writers who clearly knew what they were doing due to the results that they provided with Batman the Animated Series. And you can't talk about Batman the Animated Series or this film without talking about the cast. I mean, Kevin Conroy, may he rest in peace. He is once again phenomenal as Bruce Wayne and as Batman. This is no exception to the rule that was already established with countless episodes of TAS. It was just a really great, terrific performance by Kevin Conroy. And I would say, yeah, there were a lot of episodes of the show that definitely do resonate with me, but there are certain aspects and certain moments in this film where Conroy's performance just resonates on a much deeper level than some of the episodes of the series. Just the emotional weight of the arc between Bruce and Andrea is just so well done by both voice actors, by Conroy and Dana Delany, that it really does have the same impact as a live action drama would. It really is that strong and that well done. So yeah, Kevin Conroy, just masterful voiceover and work and just performance overall as Batman and Bruce Wayne. Dana Delany is also up there as Andrea Beaumont and the Phantasm, except she's not really the one that voices the Phantasm. The voice of the Phantasm when it's masked is actually Stacy Keach, which I thought was a really cool touch. He also voices Carl Beaumont in this, Andrea's father. And then, you have Mark Hamill as the Joker, who is the scene stealer. He's a showstopper. I mean, Mark Hamill is just absolutely amazing as the Joker, and this performance is honestly probably the best Joker performance from Mark Hamill. And he's done a lot of good Joker performances. He was good in Batman Return of the Joker, the Batman Beyond movie. He was also good in uh, a lot of these other episodes of the animated series that involve the Joker. But because of the fact that this is like PG-13 and there's a little bit more of an edge, and the Joker can really sink his teeth into Batman and into others in certain scenes, it just makes the performance even more spectacular. And yeah, Mark Hamill cannot sing his praises enough for his work as a Joker in this film. I have a few other actors that you might recognize doing some voiceover work. Stacy Keach, like I mentioned earlier, is Carl Beaumont. Abe Vigoda, who plays Sal the Weezer Valestra. Dick Miller, good old dependable Dick Miller. He voices Chucky Saul. John P. Ryan voices a character named Buzz Bronski. You have Efrem Zimbalist Jr., who once again voices Alfred. Bob Hastings as Commissioner James Gordon. Robert Costanzo as Bullock. Arlene Sorkin, she is uncredited as Bambi, one of Bruce's socialite um, girls. And you have Hart Bochner as Arthur Reeves, who's like this lawyer guy who is in a lot of ways the one that is trying to get Batman arrested and framed for these crimes, these vigilante justice murders of these mob bosses that are being committed by the Phantasm. And out of this entire voice cast, it's pretty much A plus, A plus, A plus, 10 out of 10, pretty much all across the board when it comes to these voice actors. The ones that you've already heard and are already really dependable and already really reliable from the animated series, as well as some newcomers like Dana Delany and so on. But Hart Bochner sucks. He is the one voice actor in this entire cast who didn't really bring his A game. I think he brought a D game here, and it kind of hurt the scenes that he was in. I'm not gonna lie. Hart Bochner, you might recognize him. He's been in a few things. He was in Supergirl. He's most well known for being in Die Hard. He's most well known for being um I gotta remember what the hell is his name? Ellis. He's most well known for being Ellis in Die Hard. Hans, Bubby, I'm your white knight. Like he's most well known for being that guy. And I don't know, I just don't think his voiceover or his work here was really that impressive. Pretty below average in all honesty. And if you look at it, he didn't really do a lot of voice work again in honestly anything else. And as far as I know, I'm looking it up on his Wikipedia and IMDb, and no, he didn't. That's because he's not a good voice actor. There's a reason why he wasn't casted that much by animated shows in the future or films because he just wasn't that good. But other than Hart Bochner, yeah, it's a great voice cast. Now the direction, the writing, and the voiceover work is not the only thing that is a major standout when it comes to this film. You also have the score by Shirley Walker, who did the music for the animated series, and this is a tour de force from her. This score is spectacular, it's stupendous, it's epic, it's gothic, it's everything that you want out of a Batman score. There's bits of tragedy here, there's bits of triumph. It's a really great score, and she's definitely a composer that is missed. I know she passed away a while ago, and she left an absolutely clear mark on film score history with her work here. She always brought it. I mean, she was a very underrated composer during her lifetime. She was very integral to the overall success of Batman animated series because of just how important each score for each episode was to the effectiveness of the script for each given week. And the same applies here. It's just a really layered, just absolutely impressive and incredible score by Shirley Walker. The opening credits, which were clearly a beefed up remix of sorts of the animated series theme, it evoked Basil Polidoris's work in The Hunt for Red October. And when you remind folks of a work like that, you have absolutely knocked it out of the park. So yeah, Shirley Walker did a stellar job with the score. And for a film that's like 78 minutes, it definitely didn't overstay its welcome. There really weren't a lot of pacing issues. Maybe a couple moments with Hart Bochner's character, because I just wasn't into that whole subplot. But other than that, went by at a pretty quick and exciting pace. And overall, it's a terrific bit of animation. It really is. It's an amazing animated film that I highly recommend to anyone that's a fan of animation or a fan of comic book films if they haven't seen it already. And if you're a fan of Batman, this is a must see if you haven't seen it already because it's that well done of a movie. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on Batman Mask of the Phantasm. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you later. See ya.